MX Black's overrated? Thank you. That's what I'm saying. OP. Okay, never mind. He's just a different type of purist. Okay, alright. Let's calm down and chat, okay? Let's just all agree the best switches are MX Blues. So today we're building the DK1 TKL from GDK Lab. Unikeys is the one that reached out to me and asked me to build it. So this is supposedly a budget board. So they're aiming for a price less than 250. There is a Z Frontier post. This will be the international group buy, so the group buy for China is happening or has happened, but this one will be going live around June 10th. Let's just open it and check it out. So here we go. What color do I have? I have... This is none of the colors that they told me I would get. They told me to pick 2 colors and I did not get either the one I thought I was gonna get. Unless I'm like blind. I thought I was going to get canvas blue or dark purple. This looks like a black. That's okay. I don't mind. So here is the board that we're going to be building. It's going to be either a full copper or brass bottom case. There's a bunch of colors. There's anodized and coating. We're under 250. So in terms of case colors, you have anodized, you have silver, gunmetal gray, titanium gray, dark gold, black, dark purple, burgundy. And then for coating, you have flash white, wheat whirlwind, sunflower yellow, star gray, milk curry, ultra light pink, and canvas blue. So you have 14 different colors. Full copper / bottom case, TKL layout. The US vendor is going to be Unikeys. It's very heavy. So F13 TKL, the renders have WinKey or WinKeyless, but I'm just going to assume there's going to be WinKey or WinKeyless. It does use the ball catch system, and then this is their idea of a budget-friendly TKL. Right off the bat, you can see the sides have very thin bezels. The top and the bottom have thicker bezels. And then this part where it's like space above the arrow keys, it's like a badge. Looks like there's an indicator right here, but this is like a very nice accent piece. It just kind of takes like the top piece and makes it like a little bit more flashy. The bottom, really cool looking. They have basically, milled out where most of the switches would be. You can also see the DK1 TKL and then GDK, so that's the Randing D series, right? So this does use a ball catch mechanism. Looks like it also uses a pogo pin. There's lots of screws, but I'm guessing that's mainly for the weight on the back. Does not have a cherry lip. Here's the side. So this is neat. Okay, so you have the top piece with like a pseudo seam. You can see a sliver of the mid / bottom piece, and then you can see the third piece right here. You can see 3 pieces here. So this piece with the pseudo seam, this part's actually part of the top piece. So you have 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 piece right here. This is separate from the top piece. It's a very sleek look inside. Here's the back weight. So it's kind of misleading. This looks like it would be like an accent back weight, but it's actually part of how the board gets its timing angle. It's more like an accent piece. You have the defined right here. So there is branding right here. And then, yeah, it's just very slight, but if you look at it in the shadow, you can see there's slight like geometric lines right here. You have the 4 triangular feet. And then this one, it's interesting because you can see this bottom piece, it slopes down, and that's when they put on this like accent block. It's a pretty simple back weight, but when you look closely, there are subtle lines that give it a little bit more flair. And then here you can see the top piece covers the bottom-ish piece. Centered USB port. So this like accent block is where the USB port can be found. And then check this out. Oh, so here is the front lip. So you can see the copper theoretically from all angles. Instead of just having this piece go over, they have added this little sliver. I'm guessing this kind of acts also as like an anchor, but it does make it so that you can actually see the copper instead of like just from the edges, right? I'm also guessing having this like front piece right here also contributes to the ball catch mechanism. Yeah, just bloop. Boop. Looking internally, all these have been built out for the alphas. Looks like this back accent piece is also where the batteries will be, I'm guessing, also the USB port. This does have force brake already installed, so you can see there's like 2 pads right here, as well as the 4 corners. And these pieces on the corners have actually been screwed in. You can't like easily remove them. These pieces, I'm guessing, are adhesive. You do have force brake to prevent any like rattle as well. Very subtle branding here. And then you can tell that this piece is actually very thin. So this is like a tray, but this is almost like a V tray, right? Rather than just like a straight tray. It's straight on the top, but on the back, it's like a V. And then you can see where this front lip, it kind of goes up. So it almost seems like they try to go as thin as they possibly could without just like shaving this complete part off. Because there's some boards where they'll have like multiple pieces, but then they'll cut out this bottom part because then it gets like too thin. So they'll just cut out this bottom part and just have like a bottom piece. But in this case, what they did is they tried to go as low as they could without actually needing to like cut out a piece right here. Here you can see like the different mounting points. So it looks like 4 on the top, 4 on the bottom, and yeah, the 4 ball catch. This is going to be removable. It does have this like thick pour-on foam and a diffuser for like the LED, but it looks like you will be able to like take it off, not completely. So this piece on the front is like an accent piece. So it looks like you can at least take this top plate off. So it looks like you can at least take this off and interchange it if you want, but you can't completely take off this. So basically this is their idea of like a front badge that you can take off. Here I was talking about how this is not just like a flat tray, it's more like a V right here. On this piece, it's where the badges are. This one doesn't have anything back here, so I wonder if this is just like a decal sticker. So here's where the batteries would be. So it is via pogo pin. So here would be the daughter board, the pogo pin. They do have the phone for the batteries in case you decide not to do wireless. And then you would just stick the battery in right here. So you just take this and whoop, whoop. So the batteries just go on like that. No need for cables. In case you don't want the batteries, you can take them out and they give you this like thick battery foam. So it looks like this piece you can just take off and swap it if you need. So it's like Tetris block for the accent weight, but it's kind of neat because if you look at it, it's like two-toned, right? Oh, there's 2 textured parts. So you have this shiny and then you have the more matte, and then you can see that on here as well. And then you can also take it off if you like. Theoretically, you can also take this piece off, but this is what I will refer to as the badge. So here is PCB. So it does use pogo pin. It looks like you just have this whole row of LEDs. You got the LED strip. No flex cuts. Here you can see where like, I guess the gasket would go. Looks like you can do step to regular caps lock. You are locked into one layout bottom row. And yeah, I think the only thing you can pick is step to regular caps lock. No caps lock indicator from what I see. Also no physical reset button. There are LED indicators. I'm guessing this is for like wireless. So the 4 right here. But aside from that, you have these LEDs and then these LEDs on the top row. Here you have your standard foam kits. And then I have 2 plates today. So I have FR4 and an ALU plate. The mounting for this board does use dual gasket. At least on the IC, there's a 1.6 solder, 1.6 hot swap, and the 1.2 flex cut. So I have the 1.6. Plates, you have ALU FR4 PC. Standard foam, you do get stabilizers, cables, or tools. Oh, they give me an artisan keycap. GDK Labs. So it looks like here's all the gaskets we're working with. Oh my goodness. Oh my god. There are so many gaskets. We set up a dual structure silicone plate gasket structure and silicone PCB gasket structure. So that's why we have all these freaking gaskets. This kit looks like will come with stabs. Okay, so this is the FR4. You do see large gaps on the top also right here where the space would be, right here. So basically just large cuts where there's like any empty space, not necessarily any flex cuts on like the alphas. It has a 1.6 solder hot swap and then a 1.2 flex cut. Here you can see the mounting points, so you can see the 4 on the top, the 3 on the bottom. And then looking at the ALU plate, it is basically the same exact way. So this one uses dual gasket, so what that means is you can either mount it via on the plates or on the PCB. So you see all this jazz, right? So this one has like the triple. So this would go on the PCB. You would just slide it on like this. You have 2 different ones. I'm guessing one is going to be softer, one is going to be harder. Feels like this light one is softer and this black one is going to be harder. These ones, right? You can either do something like this, or you can do 2 different duros again. Slide this in. Depending on if you get the 1.6 or the 1.2, it will be different gaskets. That's interesting that they decided to do that. I'm guessing because of the nature of the flex cuts for the thinner PCB, they had to do something different for the PCB gasket. You know, I converted one of Connor's friends to mechanical keyboards, and I was like, so how does he like it? And he was like, he says he's mad at you. And I was like, what? What did I do? He's like, because now he spent too much money. And I was like, oh. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that, so. Today we built the DK1 TKL. This is an upcoming group buy. Uni keys will be the US and Canadian vendors. They said starting point will be less than 250. They said this is their idea of a quote-unquote like budget board, still having like premium features. So this part is the LED strip, but you can remove it. And then this whole badge you can remove, but you cannot remove this whole entire section. It is a two-toned badge, so this kind of matches like the back weight, but you can see there's like a matte side, there's a shiny side, and then same with the weight with the diagonal cut. You have the matte and the shiny. You can change the color, but it wasn't actually an indicator. So you do have a relatively plain and simple piece on the back. You have defined right here, hidden in this like little cubby. And then you do have these like triangular feet. You do see like this geometric shape right here. So board uses ball catch mechanism, right? 2 gaskets. And both gaskets have 2 duros. So you have a harder and a softer. So you have the dumbbell gaskets on the plate, and then you have PCB gasket on the PCB. 4 mounting points on the top, 3 mounting points on the bottom for the plate gaskets. Plate gasket does not interfere with the space bar. So PCB gasket is way more intense, okay? So it uses like sock gaskets or sleeve or however you want it, but it does just like slide on. What you would do is you would slide it on like this. And there are 8 gasket sleeves on top and then 6 on the bottom, which means that especially since they give you, you know, a harder and softer duro, you can experiment. So say like you want to do like the softer duro on the outside, but then you'll do like harder duro on the inside. The thing with the PCB gasket is that one of the points does overlap with the spacebar. It's not directly over it, but it does overlap. So what you could potentially do is like not use the gasket here. The orientation for like the dumbbell gaskets does matter when you're building it. So you can see right here. So you have the flat part, and then you have like the nipple part. The nipple part will go down. So it'll go into like, there's a groove on the bottom case for that. Personally, I liked dumbbell gaskets with both plates. However, I liked the harder duro for the ALU plate, and I liked the softer duro for the FR4 plate. Dumbbells sounded better to me, but people in chat were saying they liked the socks a bit more. So I will say when you're assembling this, whenever you're doing the socks, especially with the harder duro, it is like a tight fit. So just be aware of that. They have a 1.6 solder and a hot swap. And they also have a 1.2 flex cut hot swap. The gasket tabs for the 1.2 are going to be different from the 1.6, as you can see. So whenever you get your kit, you just need to be aware that there are gaskets based on like which PCB you have. Don't make a noob mistake like me and be like, what are these tiny gaskets? Do they go on this individual? No, the tiny gaskets are meant for the 1.2. I guess my thoughts on it, if you like gasket mounted boards, it has all the gaskets. So if you are someone who tends to prefer gasket mounted, I could see this one being like, I guess, higher appeal in that regard, especially since they give you like different gasket durabilities. This one definitely lets you experiment if you want, because there are different duros. I think overall the build, it was beginner friendly. There wasn't anything that I was like, oh my god, this is hard. I'd say the only thing that was like difficult is maybe like PCB gasket, hard duros. It was very snug in there. I think overall the build process was very straightforward. You know, they use the magnetic connectors, so you don't have to worry about any ribbon things. Some people feel uncomfortable with ball catch or they don't prefer ball catch, but as you guys saw, it was very easy to like seamlessly like change it out. I will say with the FR4 plate, I did experience some like weird resonance like around this area, but then once I added the case foam, it kind of like fixed that. I think it's interesting that they're offering both plate mount and PCB mount stabilizer compatibility, but I will make sure that that's going to be an actual thing and that's not just like a prototype. This light was not an indicator, which was like a little disappointing. It's just fancy here. There's also no indicator on the caps lock, but there are are indicators on these 5 keys too, because you can do wireless. You need some kind of like visual indicator to let you know. Overall, I think it is a very solid board. I think as you have competition like QK or Melotrix, like this one definitely makes like a good standing. They're coming in with this new concept because so far the other people, so QK, they came out with like the CU line, right? And then this is like a challenger. I do think they did a pretty good job with it. The other thing I don't know is if they're going to be offering both WinKey or WinKeyless. I mean, we just kind of have to wait for the product page, but ultimately I do think it is a solid board. I guess we'd have to see like how much it cost overall, but I would say while they preface this as like a quote-unquote budget board, I think it's a little higher in some regards than like some budget boards that come to mind. I would say this board is actually more well polished than some of the boards that I've built. So that's the build. Thank you, Unikey's, for sending it out. Thank you, GDK, for letting me build it as well. If you guys want more information, I recommend joining Unikey's Discord because they're going to be running it for Canada and the US. And there's also the Z Frontier link in case you guys want to go see like what they got. But yeah, that's the build. That's it.